Hey friends, it's your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy GM Prep. In this weekly show, I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday role-playing game. In this case, I am running the RPG Shadowdark by Kelsey Dione over at Arcane Library, and we are running the Gloaming, the campaign setting from Cursed Scroll 1, also available from Arcane Library. Really enjoying the system, really enjoying the campaign world. I think we're up to like session 31 or something, a really high number of sessions that we've been able to run for this campaign, and really enjoy it. And really enjoying it. This show is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. Patrons get access to all kinds of awesome material, including exclusive adventures, tools, and tips to help you run your game, access to the awesome Lazy DM community over on Discord, and most of all, the patrons help me put on shows like this. To the patrons of Sly Flourish, thank you so much for your outstanding support. So last week, our heroes made their way into the Vile Well. The Vile Well in Cursed Scroll 1 really only has a little bit tied to it, and I'm turning this into something far bigger, which is pretty much what I've done with this entire campaign setting. Like, the Gloaming itself actually doesn't have tons of material, but it's got just enough material to make me want to expand it into other things. So it has this short paragraph. The stench of rot gusts out of this mold-encrusted, lightless well. Inside, Haldren the sorcerer is entangled in a nest of veins and tendrils that keep him alive of sorts. Any creature who enters risks the same fate. 1,000 gold piece and a Kythagon cog rest on the well's fleshy, damp floor. So it's obviously just intended to be this thing. I decided it is an entry into the underworld of the Gloaming, that there is an entire underground cavern complex as big as the Underdark, and I'm going to expand it out. So I have blown up the Vile Well. I still have Haldren the sorcerer is down there trapped, but I decided, rather than cited the entangling vines and tendrils, what if he is actually a captive of a demon worshipping group of bad guys in a keep known as and down in the Underdark there is this huge chasm known as the Shimmering Valley. And the Shimmering Valley is like a huge cleft that just leads into the bottomless unknown. But there is a thin walkway that goes around the outer edge of this that the characters can take. And on a huge kind of underground plateau, I guess it's kind of a plateau, like overhanging this massive cavern, is a small city known as Nighthaven. And Nighthaven, or not, it's like a town, village/town. And the town of Nighthaven is a place where people go who prefer to stay in the dark. So a lot of the species who prefer to stay in the dark stay here, but it's otherwise a relatively peaceful village. Trade occurs on occasion where trade caravans will come through from different places. And they have a good defense system set up so that the demon worshippers of Last Watch haven't been able to or haven't bothered to really overtake them. So the characters are on their way to this village of Nighthaven, which we're going to talk about today and offer up, like, what are the things that they have in Nighthaven. They need the character. It's a good opportunity for the characters to have a place where they can go, and they haven't been able to get to a town with any downtime for a while. So this is a good opportunity for them to have some downtime. And I thought just kind of a neat juxtaposition of having one village that's kind of a nice place with lots of creatures that hang out in the Underdark, you know, separate from Last Watch, which is a terrible demon worshipping cult. I guess they're a cult. Yeah, demon worshipping bad guys who have overtaken a demonic temple or a demonic keep. So that is what we are working on today. I'm going to generate a new session planning template. I am using Notion to do my campaign planning today. Probably going to be switching to Obsidian for the next one, but I'm enjoying Notion thus far. And today is the June 2nd. So our characters today, I think we might have everybody. I don't know if anybody is out. So we have Morrigan, the elf warlock. Morrigan is the only character who has managed to survive this entire campaign, and not because I've been favoring them. They've actually been at high risk in many situations, but have managed to survive. Morrigan is the daughter of Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn was burned at the stake and now, on occasion, shows up as a spirit. Morrigan is carrying a dagger, and Morrigan's father is Haldren, the person that they're trying to go find. Irina is an elf warlock of Almazatz who just came forward as being a warlock of Almazatz, who's kind of like watching what's going on with the characters and stuff like that. Because if Almazat doesn't need to devour the world, Irina can get that message back, which is like, if this group succeeds in what they're trying to do, it's possible that Almazat won't have to devour the world. We have Uralt of the Riviera, a former knight of St. Yidris, who faced off against other knights of St. Yidris most recently, has a crazy, crazy high armor class. I think his AC 20 in a Shadowdark game, which means almost nothing hits him all the time. He was getting attacked by something that attacked like 3 times and hammered him, and he just took every hit. He get missed with every single hit. He did get paralyzed by one of the hits, though. That was when he was fighting the spider guy from last game. We have Lauren, the goblin scout leader. Lauren, I don't know if it has any goblins. There's probably some goblin scouts down here. I think we're going to have that. Troop 36 of goblin scouts reside in... That might be kind of a fun. So you have like a fun... One of the reasons you go through the characters is because sometimes you come up with fun secrets that are tied to the characters. And I like the idea that, like, Lauren is a goblin scout leader. He teaches young goblins how to, live and survive in the Underdark, and has a pretty good rate. He's only got like a 20% loss of the scouts. And so I think the idea that like there's another scout group here, and maybe like Lauren's rival is here. Well, who would be fun for that Lauren has like a rival who's a rival scout leader that they hate each other. Runs Troop 36. I think there's some fun scout stuff that I could pull from the movie Moonlight Kingdom. Ed Norton plays a scout leader in that, and I think they're like super serious about their scouting stuff, and I think that would be kind of a fun. So the archetype for Mizzo from Moonlight Kingdom. That's fun, says Lauren, the scout leader. Dazder is the human witch frog shaman. I haven't heard that the player said he was going to be in there. Not. What's this new thing? Oh, look at that. They have like a little table of contents. That's new. I haven't seen that before. So Dazder is a human witch frog shaman. I don't know if Dazder is going to be there. We'll see. And then Calum is an elf wizard. So the strong start. They are on the edge of the precipice. Let's take a look back at our last notes and just catch us up. So what happened in the last session is that they met Arlamas the Drider, who was a cursed elf that had been thrown down here because Arlamas betrayed, what's her name? Titania and the Green Knights for St. Yidris, and was thrown down in the well and cursed to become a Drider. What was interesting is Morrigan kind of got interested in Arlamas and was like, Morrigan, being a relatively weathered elf warlock, was charmed by Arlamas. But they battled Arlamas, and this was our Arlamas, who should have been really tough, could not hit Uralt at all. And I think got blinded, so it was a disadvantage to hit anybody else. It was really a pain. And so Arlamas wasn't very effective. And then the Ettercap pages were around. One tip that I learned from last game, which was really good, is when you have a creature like an Ettercap, it's better to describe what they're like than it is to name them Ettercap. Because when I was describing what they're like to people, their eyes were wide open. We're going to talk about that today in the talk show, the importance of leaving blanks. And some of the blanks you can leave are like the definitions of monsters. Instead of giving them a name, use their style and describe what they're like, and they're far scarier than if you actually just call them an Ettercap. Think about a weird half humanoid, half spider creature with long, wicked fingers and mandibles and a clicking mouth and hungry eyes, right? Too many hungry black eyes is far scarier than it's an Ettercap, right? The big distended belly. So they met and they fought Arlamas. They explored Arlamas's lair and found some treasure. And then began, really in the one session, that's as far as they got. They fought Arlamas, they got Arlamas's treasure, and then they made their way onto the edge of the Vile Well. So I think we'll probably roll an encounter up for our start today. And it's funny because I can kind of arrive at Gidi. So the Gidi is not the name of it. Nighthaven is where they're going to go. So traveling through the Vile Well. Then, yeah, all of these are still good for our session today, but they really got through hardly any of this. So Arlamas the Drider, with secrets and clues, we can decide which ones of these we can move forward. Arlamas is a green knight. We got that. Only a sphere of annihilation you can destroy him. We got that. Haldoran promised to recover the sphere and use it on Arlamas, but never returned. Got that. Haldoran traveled to the village of Nighthaven on the edge of the subterranean where Orcish followers Agidi. And we're going to change this to just followers because it's going to be a mixture of different species. God of Feast, Mirth, Wilds reside. Narrow path along the Shimmering Valley leads to an underground keep known as Last Watch, demonic keep of the Shimmering Valley. This keep is a lair of the followers of Ramlot the Pillager and Ramlot of the Horde. That one we can take. Followers of Ramlot worship at an altar to their demon god who holds in his hand a sphere of pure darkness and annihilation. These are all good. So we're gonna grab all these secrets because I don't think I did these. So yeah, so they fought Arlamas and then they got to the edge of the Shimmering Valley and that's where the game ended. So they didn't really get very far. Game notes. Hey, look, I have my game notes from last time. There's 30 minutes left on the torch timer. That's good to know. I'm gonna I'll put that in my note. They're at the edge of the valley with the well behind them, and Morrigan is wearing the armor of Arlamas. So I think she's gonna see. I think like Arlamas is gonna the spirit of Arlamas is gonna follow her. She'll like that. So that is where things currently stand. So in our other game, let's see. I'm gonna put 30 min on torch timer. I found another nice little trick for keeping. So I have. There's lots of little systems in Shadowdark. One of the systems is, of course, running the torch, which my new sort of Mike Shea hack is I roll a D12 and I subtract that from 60 minutes. So when I'm setting the torch timer, instead of saying it's an hour, I say I secretly roll a D12 and subtract that from 1 hour. And that's how long a torch lasts. The torch doesn't necessarily last a full hour. That way people can't keep exactly on track. It could be as little as 48 minutes, but I think it's kind of a fun way to keep the torch a little bit more obscure. You could do something if you wanted to be nice. You could roll a D20. Like 50 minutes plus 1 D20 would be nice. That way it might last longer than an hour, but I don't think it's as interesting if it goes longer than an hour. I think it's only interesting if it goes less than an hour. So I roll a D10. You could roll a D10 as well. That'd be probably nicer if I rolled a D10. Another little trick is I wrote down all of the characters' names on my dry erase flip mat around the table. So it was like a tiny little map of where the players were sitting, which character was sitting at which part of the table around me, including virtual players. We had 2 people that were playing remotely, and I put them where their speaker thing was. So I had them on my map and in a circle, or in kind of an arch, right? So I knew where they were sitting. And then I took a token, and I just had a token that would sit next to whoever's gone most recently. And then I would use that to keep track of turns. And that way I was keeping track of turns the entire time. And then one of the players looked over and they go, oh, that's really smart. And I was like, it's the dumbest tool in the world, but it's a good tool, right? People were sitting. I had the name of the character associated with the player where they were sitting. And I had the characters who weren't at the table, so I wouldn't forget them. And I could remember whose turn it was, so that when somebody jumped in, I could interrupt them and say, actually, let's hear what Lauren has to say. And then I'd move, okay, Lauren, you've done that. Okay, let's go next. And I could keep track of turns next to that. I think the other thing I'll do is do a little hash marks next to it every time it rotates through. But that way it was easier. That was an easier method for me to keep track of turns, even when we weren't in combat, so that we could track, we haven't really had a situation where you really had to track effects that occur on so many turns or anything like that. But that technique worked really well. Just drawing out a list of the characters oriented towards the player. So it was like a map of where they were sitting, and then having a little token that I could move around to show me who was up at any given time. Really, really simple and worked really well. Here is this really simple example, right? I had a little token and I had a name of the character that was in position oriented towards where the player was sitting, including Irina. And Irina in this example, Uralt and Irina were actually running virtually. So I put them between the players for Morrigan and Lauren. So we had 3 people that were there physically and 2 that were there remotely. And that way I would not forget about them, even though they're not sitting around the table, and I could keep track of whose turn it was by just moving that token around to doing it. The other thing I would add to this, I'm going to try today, is putting little tick marks next to the rounds. That way I can keep track of random encounters and things like that. Robert Table says it's like tracking the big blind, little blind in Texas Hold'em poker. Apparently, I have no idea what a big blind and little blind is, but I've seen it in James Bond, and I think you're correct. So that worked really well. 30 minutes left on the torch timer. So you know what? I don't have any dice. Can you believe this? I'm running the talk show and I don't have any dice. I have a D20. Maybe that's enough. I can use my single D20 to do this. So I want to have a random encounter. Let's see. This is the Shadowdark guide. So we're going to start with, I'm kind of cheating because I don't know if it's cheating, but I want to have a random encounter. We're going to do, let's see. They have ruins. Do they have like an Underdark? They have caves. Deep tunnels. We'll do deep tunnels. The 10-eyed oracle drifts into sight, chattering of doom. That would be pretty great. So it's a D100. Is there a way to roll a D100 on a D20 roll? I don't think so. How about, is there just a dice roller I can use? Roll a die. Oh, look. Let's see. 1D100. A shadow rises out of a PC's shadow and attacks. Huh. That's not so bad. It's a little boring. Let me just roll again. 6. And see what that comes up with. 6. A Duergar calls for help. 2d4 more. Prepare for an ambush. We have a Duergar calls for help. We could have a Duergar stumbling forward, falls over dead, and then the shadow of the Duergar rises up and attacks. That might be kind of fun, right? Mixing the two together. We could have dead Duergar who were killed by their own shadows. And then, yeah. What if they, so there's a couple different ways. What if they found a bunch of dead Duergar and the Duergar were like life drained, terribly life drained, and they cast no shadow because their shadows departed, but then the shadows kind of reach out from behind the characters and attack. That might be kind of fun. I like that. What do shadows look like? So I think it'd probably be one shadow per character makes sense. And these characters are now pretty robust, but it would make most sense that there was one. So they're 3, but I think it's still okay. They're 15 hit points, 2 touch attacks, plus drain. Target with 1 strength at 0 becomes a shadow. At 0 strength, target dies and becomes a shadow. Takes 1 strength damage. I wonder how that gets recovered. I don't know how it gets recovered. I guess we'll find out. So I kind of like that. So dead Duergar from Nighthaven. They're probably dead Duergar merchants, right? Shadows pull away from the characters and attack. What would be an interesting monument that exists in this place? I can't remember if the Shadowdark book has good tables for like monuments. Is there a dungeon builder in Shadowdark? There's hazards. Something happens. Rumors. There's adventure sites. We have more sites. Points of interest. These are probably still a little bit bigger than I want. So I think we're going to go to my random generator. We're going to do a monument. Look, we already have a monument. And check out this. I don't think I put this in here, but we can figure that out. So we have Abyssal Obsidian Battlefield, Foggy Narcotic Sphere, Fairy Cracked Cenotaph. Cenotaphs are kind of an interesting. I like a cenotaph. Define cenotaph for me. I think a cenotaph is like a memorial to, a monument to people whose remains are interred elsewhere. So I like a cracked cenotaph. And we can tie the craft. Let's pick one of the factions we will pick one of the factions of the Gloaming. Let's see. We got Almazats. We've already had Kytheros, Mugdalblub, Shun the Vile, Titania. But there are other gods in the Shadowdark book, so maybe let's take a look at those deities. Saint Taragnus, who's lawful. So I think I have do I have a faction list that I made for Shadowdark? But I don't think this has all of the other gods in it. So maybe we'll make that. Taragnus, Madeira, Ord, Memnon, Ramlat, Shun, the Lost. I kind of like the Lost, right? So they're 9. Let's see. The deities, right? Many gods, priests. Malevolent beings worship one of the dark trio. There were once 9 primary gods, but 2 are the Lost, forbidden and forgotten. Many folks still refer to the 9 in the oaths they bring beneath the eyes of the 9. So I think this will be, for funsies, one of the Lost. Cracked cenotaph of the Lost. So what would that look like? So let's see. I don't even know what I'm rolling for. Different than a cracked Cenobite. So let's see. We'll do, kind of female gendered is 1 to 10. Male gendered is 11 to 20. It is male gendered. So what do we want it to look like? Is it demonic, devilish, shrouded? Let's see. Let's go with we'll go back to the generator here and just see if I get, it could be celestial, like a fallen celestial with clipped wings and a burning halo. That's not bad, right? And it's got a huge crack in the center of it, which the shadows flow. I think that's kind of neat. Bloody halo. Yeah, I kind of dig that. All right, so we got a strong start, right? So we have the Shadows of the Lost. That's fun. So we have that there are 9, except there are more than 9 deities, right? 2 lost deities, still whispered about in rumor, faded mosaics and lost tomes. Their names are forgotten, as are their missteps. Yet remnants remain in the deepest shadows of the world. Does this lost have a name, and do we give it one? That name probably has tremendous power, though, so we probably don't want to give it away easily. Mirinel, one of the lost, is Mirinel. Brother of Titania, cast out of the heavens. I don't know, I've been doing a lot with Titania. Maybe we'll pick one of the other gods. Twin brother of Saint Taragnus would be cool. Cast out of the heavens. That's cool. That's kind of a fun thing that they could learn. So we got some cool lore tied to these shadows that they're going to fight. The Shadows of the Lost, and they're on page, just so I can make my life a little easier. Monsters, shadow. And the shadows could probably get turned pretty easily. I think they're going to, hit some saving throws on page 250. But that's okay. Oh, and the torch will go out. When the shadows come, one of them is going to go zip and just put the torch out, as one does. Cool. I was going to put some other secrets and clues from my other session in here, so let's go do that. There were a bunch of these. I think I liked all of these. You can take this one too. And we go into our notes here and drop them in. Haldren traveled to the village of Nighthaven on the edge of the subterranean shimmering valley where the followers of Gidi, the goddess of feast, mirth, and wilds reside. Narrow path along leads to an underground keep known as Last Watch, lair of Ramlot. Followers of Ramlot worship at an altar. They didn't learn that. Olgar, Glaberzo in service of Ramlot, rules over the followers of Last Watch. Spies of the Knights of St. Idris warned the followers of Ramlot of Haldren's coming and suggested that he would make a wonderful sacrifice on their bloody slab to their dark god Ramlot. There are creatures who simply prefer the dark and aren't interested in power and conquest. They've come to Nighthaven, reside in Nighthaven, right? Geographical position makes it easy to defend. They mostly have to worry about aerial attacks, so they all learn from an early age how to fire a bow. Nighthaven was founded by a goblin named Mort Firebolt. It has humans, dwarves, halflings, goblins, kobolds, and orcs. Duergar. Shimmering Valley is said to be the wound in the deep earth hewn by Ramlot's axe in a battle with the old gods. The shimmering comes from the spirits of the underworld still grasping for life above. At the narrow passage to Last Watch, nasty harpies will try to throw you into the rift. Yep, so we have that. Cool. So we have, location-wise, we have Nighthaven. And we want to have a few, I can't remember if I did it last time or not. Let's take a look. No, I did not. I don't think I have well, let me check and see if I have it in locations. Did I make a Nighthaven? I did not. So we want to have a few locations in Nighthaven for them to explore. So let's see. And one of the things that, when you want to know, like, oh, well, what should we have here? Well, having like an inn or tavern or public house, and we'll come up with a cool name for it, but we know we want to have a public house. We probably want to have a trading company. Those are 2 common ones. And then one thing you can do is you can look at it and say, so we know that they have a temple to Gidi. You can look at the characters and say, like, what places would the characters be interested in? Like Morrigan as a warlock, is there any particular... So probably we have a few warlocks, right? I think we have 2 warlocks and a shaman. So instead of like having like a wizard's tower, you might have like an old, like the, witch's residence. And we'll go with like an apothecary. I can't spell apothecary. There we go. Right. So you have like, and they'll have like an elder, like some elder person that resides there. What did I watch? Dolores Claiborne recently. And so I think we will have an NPC who is like Dolores Claiborne, like an angry dude. We'll switch the gender and make it a dude. But so we'll have an apothecary. Is there anything else that they need that we think the characters? Oh yeah, the Goblin Scout Troop 36 headquarters. I don't know that they need much else. That looks pretty good. So now we need a couple of names. And there's some of those great names. I think there's an inn and tavern name thing here in the book, which is great. Taverns. Tavern 8 is the Silver 3, the Silver Lantern, known for 12 City Watch patrons. Underground fighting pit, hostility towards spell. We'll go with a City Watch. So what did I? Silver Lantern? The Silver Lantern public house. And then, let's see, there was another cool, I think there was like a rival. I thought that there was a rival 19, the Thundering 20, the Thundering Hunters. Let's try a different one there. 17, Thundering Sentinels. So we could have the Thundering Sentinel Trading Company. That's not bad. Then we need an apothecary. So we'll go with names. I wonder if these are the same names as the other one. We'll roll and we'll go across. So 4, Gant, Farrand, Irv, Percy, Zeral. I kind of like Zeral. And what kind of critter is Zeral? It'd be kind of fun to have Zeral be something different. What is a deep one? A fish person. Could be a deep one. Zeral is a fish person. And she is a witch of who? Who does she follow? I really should get that faction list fired up. So let's go back to our faction list here. Factions and quests, and we're going to add some other people here. So let's go to our gods. We have Saint Taragnus, Gidi, and Medrina. Marina. Did I have that right? Madeira. Then we have Ord, Memnon, and Ramlot. And then we have Shun and the Lost. Cool. Now look at that. We got a perfect D20 list. So who does she worship? Who is she a believer in? 12. The Red Thorns. No, that doesn't make any sense. 4. Titania. So she is a witch of Titania. Sure, why not? Deep 1, Witch of Titania. Excellent. That's pretty good. Any other? We had like a village elder. I think I did. I had a village elder that I prepped last time. So let's take a look. Rokara. We'll drop both of these in. And what is Rokara? A Plainier elf. Greedy dragonborn kobold. Sinister kobold. I think it'd be fun to be a kobold. So that's pretty good. Monsters we're going to get from the book. Treasure we're going to get from the book. Anything else that I need? Yes. So I still don't have any scenes. So Shadows of the Lost, then Nighthaven, journey across the Shimmering Valley, the Ravine of Songs. What? The Ravine of the Songs of Heaven. Sounds nice. It's actually harpies that'll make you throw yourself into the gorge. And then pathway to Last Watch, and then Last Watch, and then saving Haldren, and then return to the surface. That is a lot of stuff. But I feel like with that path, I have what I need. We'll probably spend some time in Nighthaven. I thought it might be fun to throw a dungeon underneath Nighthaven. You know, I always like just like having a dungeon underneath the Colosseum, a dark elven vault. What about a dungeon above Nighthaven? That's interesting. I don't know how you get there. What would be a cool, if I go back to my faction list, an old vault. So what would they do? Vault would be a place that you would store stuff. There's my faction list. We've had a Vault of Shun and Thythera, so do you want that? Almazat's, Undaluk, a Vault of Memnon. We could have the Vaults of Memnon beneath the place. So let's see. The Vaults of Memnon. And I think it would be like a dungeon. Let's go to my Dyson maps here. And we'll pick I don't want it to be too big. I don't want to spend the year going through it. Here's a cool one. That looks cool. We'll just print that guy. Save that to my desktop. So I've got a map. I'll hand draw some stuff on there. And we'll just make a quick location. And I think we'll fill that out as we go. and we'll just make it kind of like a random encountery sort of place. But I think one of them is carrying the skull of Memnon. So the idea is that they could put the skull of Memnon back on the vault, return it to the vault, and then gain some experience points for it. Gain 10 experience points for putting it there, and probably access to another like level 10 object, another something like that. That might be kind of fun. I think that covers us for today. Friends, I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me today while I prepped for my Sunday role-playing game. If you enjoyed the show and you want more stuff like this, the best way to get it is by subscribing to the Sly Flourish newsletter. There is a link in the show notes. It is absolutely free to sign up, and you get access to a list of all the different things that I'm doing all over the net and a weekly article. You can also pick up any of my books at the Sly Flourish bookstore, and you can join the Patreon. Patrons get access to all kinds of awesome stuff, the Lazy DMs community over on Discord, whole bunch of tools to help you run your games, and you help me put on shows like this. Thank you all so much. Have a great day, and get out there and play a role-playing game.